Welcome, Laara. You agreed pretty spontaneously to have a Dialexicon interview, and I'm really grateful you said yes.
Thank you. I was little anxious about the idea, but sounds you were so motivated and energetic about it. How could I say no? I thought, okay, sometimes jump into things spontaneously, so I thought, well, why not? So we're here. When you offered to clean my house, I said, I'm coming.
That's sincere.
Yeah.
I wouldn't say that for jokes.
No, you won't clean my house. But I just thought, wow, this is cool. Sound like my sister. She loves cleaning house. Yeah.
Let me know about your sister after. So I just shared a bit with you about how Dialexicon is pretty open-ended where we begin. And I want you to have choice in that. But already you shared a few things with me, and one of them was the answer lies within.
Right.
Do you feel like sharing more about that?
Well, I think back in my years of working and being academic, even as a child, I always felt that. And then when one of my mentors, amazing Cree Indigenous woman who has retired and has talks about, the answers are within us. What she was alluding to was that people are always looking outside of themselves, looking for approval, looking for acceptance, looking for hope, looking for whatever it is to help them in this life. So one of the things she said is, the answers are within us, and that's what our elders tell us. When we're seeking, you look inside. It's all in you, and it's like tapping into it and working with it, trusting it. I think so. The intuition about that. So I've always felt that. So no matter what I did or wherever I worked, I look inside and also sometimes you have that intuition to feel, is this the right thing to do at this time, or do you kind of hold off? So every time I feel maybe a strong, or things will get in the way as to.
You see your daughter's there?
Yeah, I see my daughter.
she'll come
things
in.
will get into way as this is not the way to go, or I keep being pointed into the direction of this is the way. And really, that's how I lived my life, and that's what I think survived me in a very Eurocentric academic institution as an Indigenous woman who was, I hate to use the word struggling, but striving to be and to bring in Indigenous knowledges and perspectives and experiences, histories that could be understood and held in respect, and for mutual support and collaboration, and sometimes I'll take a hard approach in terms of like working with teachers and students, and that we need to understand what happened to us as Indigenous people. And I know this is interesting how this conversation is going, because that's always been my passion, my interest as from a child. And initially that comes from my father, whose mother was full-blood Cree, and her father, his father, was Russian-German. So as part of Canadian history, the Indian Act, when my German immigrant grandfather married my status Indian grandmother, she lost her status as an Indian woman. So here this couple is now coming together, and they have 4 children together. It was a relationship that wasn't meant to last. It didn't last. There was some unfortunate abuse in there. So, but my dad was the first child of those 4. And so he would have considered back in the day as half-breed. That's the terminology that was used. And then fast forward in 1985, when the changes happened to the Indian Act, he was able to get reinstated as a status Indian within the Canadian Indian Act, right? So, and I thought it shouldn't have surprised me that he moved that fast to apply, because he'd always raised us with our Cree values and thinking about how we work with the land, with people, with each other. No one's above each other, so the equality was always there. And he always encouraged us to, he kind of said it this way, the white thinking will always be there. The white world English is going to be there, but you need to stand for the Indigenous. And he didn't actually use those words, but he said you need to stand for the pride in being Cree, and then he said, and acknowledge your all your heritages. And I've always done that. Okay, I've never denied that I'm mixed with other European heritages, but I've always stood for the Cree and the. Recently, I found that there's also Oji Cree, which is in northwestern Ontario. So. And then when you add my daughter to the mix, from her father, who is mixed with Caribbean Black and Spanish and English, and also Venezuelan First Nation. So I was thinking, to me, she's this amazing daughter who carries multiple heritages. So in that sense, we can say we're biracial, but multiple cultural influences, right?
Yes.
So getting back to my dad's influence on me as a child, this is what his strive. He said we have to fight for equality. We have to encourage you to always fight for the Aboriginal heritage, because that's when that keeps being pushed aside and we're going in another direction.
Mm-hmm.
So that was in me, and so it had to be in me somewhere to keep fighting for it. So that's kind of where I took my career in making sure that happened.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes.
So you asked me a question.
Yeah.
Lots will come out of my mind and heart.
No, that is so
Yeah.
perfect. So my second and last question comes from your answer, and there are two or three. I'll let you choose. So the term half-breed is a hell of a term. And you talked about being reinstated. So those stood out, but also you used the phrase, the answer lies within and working with it.
Yeah.
And I really feel that, like, do you want to answer that question? What does working with it mean to you?
Well, if you don't work with it, it's going to sit inside and smolder and want to come out. Doesn't matter what you do, okay? Yeah. And I think this is where people struggle. Suddenly there's emotional struggles, mental struggles. It's because they don't know how to work with it inside.
Yes.
Find out what makes you thrive.
Yeah.
Find out what hurts you. Find out all of those pieces and then work with it. Find out if you're feeling angry, if you're feeling hurt. And you don't know. And also with dreams, like, get into the dreams. I dream a lot, okay? I dream a lot and things happen. Interesting, I was just involved in a project I was passionate about, because there was going to be movement towards reconciliation, towards maybe working together in a better way, and I won't say what the project is or the people involved, because to protect them. No, I'm kidding. Anyway, just because and again, that speaks to my caring of people. So I think, it's the actions, it's the talk, it's the way people act and behave. So when I'm working with people, I usually try to focus on that and still love their spirit. Their energy inside, and help them, okay, if we can kind of remove those barriers, then let's see the person flourish, right? So in this major project, this colleague who invited me to participate, we had several meetings before I trusted this is the place I want to put my energies for the moment. Mm-hmm. And we worked well together, and we worked with the team. It's an archival team. They worked so well. They were so willing. I helped them with guiding principles about where we need to go with this. They were so on board, and I thought my last meeting with them was too prophetic. So I said to them, I said, this is amazing what we were able to do here, where we were able to go, and what guiding principles we had, of decolonizing, of looking at, what can we put on the agenda and work with together. And to me, they were working from within, their hopes, even though they were taking risks and do that. Yes. So when I said that, I said, so what I need you to recognize is your institution has to support this plan. And guess what? It got canceled. without any word to the person heading it. And I think it was very devastating for her. And by extension, I can say it was very devastating for me because I was hired as the Indigenous consultant.
Yeah.
So anyway, so what do? I can leave it, set it aside. But no, what does Laara do? Write a 12.3-page letter outlining all the issues. You know, this was edict-oriented. Instead of using the word dictator, I used edict-oriented approach. It was unceremonious. You know, I said there was no kind of ceremony to, I mean, like, okay, you give you 2 weeks notice, 3 weeks notice, 4 weeks notice. And you see, I'm getting passionate about this, right? Because I'm passionate about the lack of thought and the way people were hurt and damaged. And I felt implicated in that because I'm with these folks. And here I was telling them, okay, your institution has to support this, you know, and then here, by virtue of what happened to them. So I wrote this letter, and so what I'm doing is that, okay, they owe me for some of the contract, which is okay, I'll send the invoice. But I want to hold them accountable.
Yes.
Whether I get it or not is something else. But I want to hold them accountable.
Yes.
And it's like there was promise of wages to the end of September.
Yes.
I know how much the contract was. So excuse me, but you're paying that out as compensation, right? Not even severance, but compensation.
Yeah.
So we'll see. And then we'll see where that goes.
Wow.
You know, but it's like, what do you do when something hits you?
Yes.
You know, Alex, you can wallow in pity and you wallow in anger and hurt. But I helped my colleague work it through and say, look, I'm going to do this. And she was so surprised I would do it because it's unsolicited. She didn't ask me. I said, no, because to me, this is a thing that needs to be aired. I said, look, I was very clear with you about my reasons for working on this project. I needed to be clear to this group of my position, where I stand, my passion, and if they're accepting of that, then I can work with you. I said, I will not participate in a project, in my mind, the practices I see further colonize Indigenous people or further Christianize them without their wish and their collaboration. I'm not saying that nobody should become Christian if that's what they want. You know?
With their consent, maybe, too.
But with their consent, thank you. You said, yeah. So it's all about that, right? So anyway, so we're still working through the fallout of that, but I'm not letting it go. And the thing is, I have nothing to lose within that, right? And in the past, even if I had something to lose, I've always stood up. So part of it is standing for, you know, you asked a question about within. Standing for those passions from within. Because if you don't, they're going to hurt you. You're going to feel the pain. You're going to feel confused and wonder why, you know. But when you start to clarify, make it conscious, then you know. And call upon the universal guides of and what we call our Indigenous spirits and ancestors to help them, because they are here to guide us, and they will guide us, you know. We just have to be open and understanding they are guiding us. Yeah. So anyway, I think, did I answer your question?
Oh, that feels very complete, Laara.
Yeah. Yeah.
Thank you so much, Miigwech.
You're welcome. Yeah.
And I hope, we'll hang out for a bit.
Yeah.